A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pantisha, General Manager for Content Strategy, and it gives me immense pleasure welcoming you all to today's webinar on transforming manufacturing with data, reshaping the future. I welcome you on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, and Strategy. The digital revolution is now reaching the walls of manufacturing as it continues to disrupt media, finance, consumer products, healthcare, and other sectors. Indeed, the explosion in data and new computing capabilities, along with advances in other areas such as artificial intelligence, automation and robotics, additive technology, and human machine interaction, are unleashing innovations that will change the nature of manufacturing itself. The ways people and organizations are using information has shifted dramatically. Data storage is now affordable and flexible, and advanced analytics and artificial intelligence are giving us new abilities to draw insights from large amounts of data. We've seen manufacturing emerge as one of the high growth sectors in India. The Make in India program, devised by the government, has put India on the world map as a manufacturing hub and gives it global recognition to the Indian economy. The government aims to create 100 million new jobs in the manufacturing sector by the end of 2022. The data that you all see on your screen is sourced from the Indian Brand Equity Forum, from Samarth Udyog. Some of these numbers on the screen come from the MeitY, the Ministry of Labour and Employment, and other sources. We've seen the evolution of Industry 4.0 and the interconnectedness of technology frameworks enable all of it to be more customer-oriented in their production. Industry 4.0 adoption further enables companies to rethink their siloed businesses and operational KPIs to exploit synergies with seamless data flow and real-time decisions. It has become critical for the sector to start with an enterprise-wide adoption view and break it into smaller projects rather than integrating multiple POCs. If you look at the spends, about 50% of the tech spends by the Indian manufacturers is on Industry 4.0 technologies. A high proportion, but from a fraction of the industry's sector's total representation. And 50% of Industry's 4.0 spends is on foundational technology. We've also seen that Industry 4.0 spends is by leading discrete manufacturers in auto, electricals, electronics, while chemical and pharma lead in the process manufacturing segment. Considering the drivers for this particular sector, the Indian manufacturing clusters or industrial corridor policy will play a critical role in creating smaller hubs for focused investments and innovations. The MSME incentives through dedicated contracts under the Government of India or industry-led initiatives will transform about 90% base of the Indian manufacturing. Shifting focus from costs to incentives for quality and globally competitive solutions will boost innovation mindset in a culturally resistant sector. If we consider the future, we've seen that there is a lot of favorable policy and investments coming from different quarters, which is pushing Indian manufacturing to adopt digital technologies and achieve the target of 25% contribution to the GDP by financial year 2026. There are various levers that have been placed to boost the adoption of Industry 4.0 in India. Coming to the foundational technologies that play a part of transforming the sector as we know it. Acceleration is the watchword. Industry 4.0, which includes connectivity, advanced analytics, automation, and advanced manufacturing technologies, has been gaining momentum, helping companies transform their operations in everything from production efficiency to product customization. This with improvements in speed to market, service effectiveness, and new business model creation. Players utilizing digital solutions are better positioned to weather the storm. One that we've just witnessed. And all in all, companies can deploy digital solutions that form the foundational pillars that you see on your screens. And this beyond the four walls of the factory, of the manufacturing, reaching across the end-to-end value chain to address suppliers or production plants, operational challenges in managing workplace health risks, and delivering challenges posed at the transportation nodes or in the warehouses. What I'd now like to draw your attention to is results of a survey conducted some, which is Vision 2020, the future of next, a sentiment study done by Strategic Insights, where we've interviewed a few organizations and the results are on the screens. Organizations believe that there are technologies that will help build factories that are future ready with a focus on process excellence and intelligence. And the numbers on your screen that you see, that 62% believe that the pervasiveness of connected devices using sensors or IoTs is finding applicability across multiple segments of manufacturing. About 48% are innovating backed by automation and believe that automation is a means to an end and will lead to unleashing creativity. We see that about 36% believe that human-machine interaction and see that the lines between physical and digital are blurring with the advent of AR and VR technologies that are leading to advanced creativity and innovation. Also, there are about 54% that would say that advanced analytics and AI are what is redefining the sector and are fundamental to modernizing manufacturing. And of course, 39% believe that a multi-cloud strategy for better business resilience and faster time to market is what will help them have more efficient processes and increase productivity. A little focus on the road ahead, which is, of course, making us future ready. As we've witnessed, there are four different categories which a look into the future where we take manufacturing beyond the assembly line and see what will be pivotal to driving change in this sector. We've seen that leadership commitment with Industry 4.0, which is an enterprise impacting digital transformation journey that will sustain when driven from the top with a compelling change story. A practical investment in planning and a fail-fast approach to experimentation is what will be pivotal in driving the change. Talking about digital talent acquisition and reskilling, the skills gap deepen with more advanced use cases that require adequate domain expertise. Current talent strategies employ a combination of hiring and upskilling. However, these initiatives are in their nascent stages. And we see that there is a significant amount of work that is going into how the entire talent acquisition and reskilling models can be relooked at. This will also have a huge interplay from academia. Dedicated, cross-skilled, and a continuously upskilling team, comprising of experts from shop floor, operational planning, internal IT teams, external supply chain technology, and business process owners and strategic tech partners is key to success. The starting teams can comprise of in-house IT and OT experts to begin with. And of course, moving to Industry 5.0, which will be the place where organizations find the optimal balance of efficiency, productivity, and personalization. With this webinar, we seek to understand how manufacturers are waking up to opportunities and the impact of digitization. I thank you all for your time and for giving me the listen. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, As I hand over the baton to bring in the next segment, I'd request you all to please address your questions to our speakers towards the end of each session using the chat feature on your screens. I would also request you towards the end of the webinar proceedings to fill out the feedback forms. Please mention any suggestions or recommendations that you have for us, as these will help us enhance the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make way for the upcoming discussion, which is focused on reimagining the factory of tomorrow with the digital age. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Atul Govind, Chief Transformation Officer and Head SAP and IT Corporate for India Glycols. With him, I'd like to welcome Mr. Sachin Gupta, President and Chief Information and Innovation Officer for Usha International. They are in a conversation moderated by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer, Strategy. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and today we're going to be talking about how industry and academic leaders perhaps tend to increasingly agree that digital manufacturing technologies are transforming pretty much every link in the manufacturing value chain, from research and development, supply chain, and factory operation to even marketing, sales, and service. Uh, to talk about all of this and the inflection and the convergence of technology in the manufacturing sector, along with the emerging concepts of Industry 4.0, please put your hands together to welcome none other than very, very dear friends as well as eminent folks from industry, Sachin Gupta from Usha International and Atul Govil from India Glycols. Right. Sachin, Atulji, welcome, sir. Gentlemen, absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I've got 30 minutes ahead of me and I intend to put it to very, very good use and the maximum use. Sachinji, if I could come to you first. We've been speaking increasingly about the whole role that technology is playing within the manufacturing sector for a long time now. In your view, over the last perhaps 18 months, how has it evolved or accelerated in a differentiated manner than perhaps ever before? And in your view, and I'm going to come to you also, Atulji, is what is driving that acceleration of technology adoption and deployment?
Good morning, Arjun.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Atul. Good morning, everyone. Morning. It is so fair question. I think let's come to the acceleration part in second part. But the criticality of the technology. So let's understand it's not even technology that's driving it, right? And personally, I believe manufacturing was one area that visibility really lacked for the management. Right?
True.
We all believe that, look, as long as the quality product was being manufactured, or what we believe was being manufactured, it was okay. The true metrics were not presented. The true metrics weren't there. With the onset of IoT and then IIoT, where you started getting technologies where it became easier for IT and OT to merge together, and that's become a very buzzword now. But in the simplest of the form, it became easy to collect data from the machines because you've got sensors. People became more aware of PLCs and SCADAs of the world and so on and so forth. So it became, and with the onset of cloud technologies, obviously, and edge computing, it became easy to collect that massive data, build dashboards, and be able to show what was actually happening. Now, the biggest problem and where the problem started or starts is even after you do that work, right? As it is, doing that is painful. I remember days where we created a few dashboards for the factory, and in those days you used to put a USB in the server for you to get SCADA to work, right? And every day that USB license key would disappear. So from those days, people really didn't want it to get visibility now to a point where people are making believe that visibility is happening. There's use cases, factory management's opening up and understanding there's a benefit to them. And as long as you show that, there is still possibility of adoption which didn't happen before. Right? Or usage of those dashboards, the data, the insights, and so on and so forth to help increase OEE and so on and so forth. Right? With the onset, so and I've said this multiple times, right? People have said COVID was a disaster. Things happened. Uh, I always have said, and I still will say that COVID for technologists and CIOs was the most beautiful that thing to be happening. People probably kill me for saying that, but that's
No,
what
but it was perhaps a very perverse catalyst. I agree.
absolutely right. Um, Things that did not happen and we could not do that for years happened in seconds because there was a need. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that acted as a catalyst to to uh, to really take the technology usage, right? Technology always existed, usage to the next level, right? And the management and the factory management felt they needed more visibility in what was going on at the floor level, even when they're sitting in their offices, to understand what was going on. And simple pressures of commodity prices, simple pressures of trying to bring the cost down, simple pressures on increasing the production and scaling the production got people to start looking at how can they improve. And I think that's what the catalyst was. Sorry, you've got
Brilliant. No, that's exactly what I want to bring up to Atulji. Atulji, today, as you sit as an IT practitioner, as a technologist, what do you see having drastically changed? Because, like Sachinji was saying, see, the technology has always been there and it's also been adopted in various measure. Today, this entire clamor about technology being central to pretty much all conversations. What, according to you, has changed and what do you see going ahead? Because I am also going to come to a question over the course of the next few minutes where I'm going to ask you about how your roles are evolving increasingly. But I'd like you to answer the first one. How what is changing on the ground?
Right. First of all, thanks, Arjun. Thanks for having us here today, and it's great to connect with you and team. I think I just want to call out a couple of pointers, just adding to what Sachin mentioned. And one is that no, the tech landscape, the art of the possible, something which seemed like a science fiction few years back, is now a reality. Okay, earlier we were talking about artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and these were all pretty much artificial, so to say. But these have turned real in current times. We are seeing actual use cases of usage of IoT, usage of AI, ML, data analytics, AR, VR. It's happening all across. Another thing is, uh, so today the world and the competition is changing so fast. Earlier, you had pretty much fixed number of competition or pre-existing competition. The Tatas you would compete with X, Y, Z, three, four of them, and they used to. And in some sense of the world, in some industries, we used to see cartelization, wherein those four, five known competition, no, they used to engage and then define the markets.
It used to happen in cement quite a bit.
Yeah, I was refraining in mentioning that it's happening even now to that extent. But in today's time, no, you don't even know where and from which place of the world and which
True.
sector you might find an Apple as an entity coming up and competing with the likes of Apollo hospitals. I'm just giving you an example.
I know, I completely
Getting into healthcare and life saving technologies
the
and all that.
possibilities are limitless today.
Yeah. So what is happening is that no, And once the owner, the Lala, so to say, realizes that no, you are actually, you can get, no, the business can get shot from any of these digital natives also. There is no way you can resist it. And I'm talking about progressive companies. Let me just give that, underline that word, progressive companies. There are few and many, at least in India, and few, I'm sure, across the globe, who still would like to live in that comfort of the old and the comfort of the past. But these companies are actually, just planning their doom, so to say. I'm telling you. So, and another is from a tech standpoint, as I said, the availability of technology, the capability of team members across. I'm not saying within the enterprise, but they are available. The startup culture, which is there, all that is acting as a catalyst to basically, at least try out aspects, try out, do some pilots, scale it out to that degree to create a real business value. I'll also just take 30 more seconds to highlight that, today, especially on account of the COVID wave, which happened in the last 18 months, 2 years time. What we have seen is, earlier, no, we used to have people all around. You can have experts flying from here, there, everywhere, and they could travel. But during the peak of COVID, we have seen the stringent lockdown. It led to everything stopped. Okay, you were actually standstill. You couldn't even take a kilometer. Forget taking a flight. So in that situation, most companies have now realized that no, whatever work we can enable digitally, I think that makes sense, and that's very critical in today's world for survival. I think I'll just take a pause,
No,
Arjun.
absolutely. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. And I like what you mentioned about thinking in a startup like manner, which is what I want to bring to you, Sachinji, which is that I'm going to give you three vectors, or rather two vectors. One is the whole concepts of Industry 4.0 and whatever that brings in terms of its promise. In fact, three. Uh, the second is the whole leveraging of technology and the evolution of technology by itself. The third is a growing acknowledgement that technology can do much. When you look at all of this and you try to converge them, sir, my question is what will it take? And perhaps, even if the question is right in the first place, is does technology enable increasingly organizations to develop a digital native thought?
I think that's a fair question in today's world. And in my opinion, we need to take technology outside of us. Yeah. There's nothing called technology discussions, and I hope people understand that. Nobody except for CIOs are interested, and more so now, CIOs are not even interested in talking about technology, uh, except for within the IT group,
True,
right?
true.
With the business, we should be talking about technology. Right? There's no reason for business doesn't understand technology. But I will say this, right? Today, business understands that the technology or the solutioning more than technology needs to be agile. Right? They don't wait for a year, which they don't have, and like Atul also pointed out, you don't know where the next Apple is going to come from. You don't have time for that, right? So,
It's
in
existential almost.
correct. So, right in today's world, business is okay in making sure that they have a solution that's in place rather than having a Taj Mahal of the solution, so to call it, right? Which was the case about 5 years, 6 years ago, where business said, "Give me a perfect solution," right? Now business will come back and say, "Give us a solution and we'll perfect it as we go on,"
So
which is
true.
a huge shift, right? Today, when you go on a website, you see a mistake, you don't raise eyebrows
Yeah.
or think about the issue, right? 2 years ago, if there was a data breach in an organization, you think about, or even 3 years ago, what kind of a pathetic organization it is that they can't keep my data safe. Now you say, look, fine, as long as I am not impacted by it in terms of financially, I'm okay,
Yeah,
right?
indeed.
Organization's okay, right? So the expectation of the customer, both internal and external, has completely changed, which has made our lives as CIOs little easier when you're talking to the customer, right? You're saying, look, we will give you this in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, but there's going to be some issues which they understand, right? Rather than saying, look, it would take 6 months, 7 months. And to what Atul was saying, I think that's what's helped us to start putting AI in place, ML in place, VR, AR in place, because if there's an issue, it's okay. Before you would say, first I would have to understand it, then I'll have to get my team to understand it, then I'll have to go find the developers, then I'll have to build something, then I'll have to go to business to understand what they really need, which they don't even know half the time what they need, and then go through the UAT, yada 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 yada, right? Next thing you know is 2 years have gone by and nothing is happened, right? Today, the people are saying, oh, you want to implement AI? Fantastic, let's go ahead with it. And we'll see what happens. Right? So it is that so technology, like Atul was saying, has always been there. The mindset of the
Yes.
user that you have has changed because now again, thanks to COVID and everything else that has happened, they have become a lot more agile towards acceptance on the solution. Right? And we, as the CIO community, has started talking to them more and more about solutioning them anything else. You will see now that CIOs are becoming CHROs, they're becoming R&D heads, they're now becoming CEOs. It's because of the digitization, right? That once you're digitizing, you truly start understanding the business and nuances of the business, and hence they become a viable candidate for the next step. And so that's how things have changed. That's uh, how the adoption of the technology is changing. That's how life has become easier, right? Technology has always been there, right?
Which is why I wanted to bring that point to Atulji. Atulji, in your view, and if we were to, well, for the sake of this conversation, keep technology aside, how, in your view, has manufacturing changed? And what do you attribute that to? See, because I was reading news from Niti Aayog, Mr. Kant had also mentioned that he increasingly wants to place India in the global map of supply chain. Now, in your view, therefore, how has manufacturing radically transformed?
I think manufacturing in the last several years, what we have clearly seen is it has seen right from manual work to some degree of mechanization.
True.
Then we have seen automation, that wave of automation. And now we talk about digitalization. And each of these waves have either resulted into three or more, I think four key factors, if you see. One is it has improved employee productivity. Second,
Absolutely.
it has increased your overall capacity utilization. And then for every unit of input, it has increased efficiencies. So the throughput has increased. And last but not the least, the new theme which is now emerging is around sustainability.
Absolutely.
And even on the sustainability lens, tech is playing a big role in terms of monitoring fugitive emissions or any losses which are happening. What are losses? Losses is something which are actually going out either as emissions or wastage or as a landfill, or it is contaminating the water supply, water table, all of that. So all that is happening. But I also want to clearly call out that no, there are companies who are thinking and who are working on it. And yet, for every one company of which falls under this category, there would be at least 10 more, which is just thinking. They're not acting on it. They may be thinking about it, but it may be a situation that no, 2, 3 years from now, these companies may face a serious existential crisis.
Very true.
So my limited point on this one is that no, today it's not about digitizing or digitalizing for the sake of doing it, putting the tick marks. Earlier, most CIOs profiles, no, they were talking about projects that no, we have implemented ERP, we have done CRM, we have done this SCM, or maybe we have set up some human capital management related. So these were projects. Okay, you want to go once they have gone live, it's all about maintenance. But I think these new age themes, it's not about setting up IT projects. These are business projects wherein you need to set up cross-functional teams, engage with them right from day one or maybe minus one. Before even talking about technology, you have to first talk about what are those issues which are important. When I say issues, please don't mistake me in thinking that no, we talk about business problems. Nobody comes with any business problem. And if somebody asks me what problems do I have, I will tell that vendor or partner that boss, if I had a problem, I wouldn't be sitting and talking to you. I would be doing something more creative, sorting that thing out.
Right.
No, I would rather spend my time there. And my leadership also team or my co-peers, they would not like me speaking to partners or while you are suffering from a real problem. So it's not about solving problems. It's also about identifying opportunities on what these new age technologies can possibly do. Engage with the key stakeholder. I'm not telling that you train the whole organization, align, and then create a very holistic vision of the what's possible for us. But then engage with these key stakeholders and explain, advise, and discuss that no, this is what we think we can do with this piece of technology which is available, or this is how these companies have leveraged this set, then why can't we do this? So it's about, without getting into their domain too much, not to create something that no, you are trying to capture or do something to which can disturb their whole working. But you, in a very soft and a very gentle way, you need to engage and then basically carve out and create something which can potentially create value. And out of those
Absolutely.
7 8 initiatives, 3 4 initiatives that you take, maybe one may succeed initially, two may succeed, but it's no use. People say you fail fast and all that. I would, nobody likes failure, but for the sake of it, I think in the current themes with all these SaaS models available, it doesn't cost a bomb to fail as well. So
I
you
agree with
might
you.
as well
So
try out few of these and take it forward. Yeah.
then that's actually a very interesting perspective you brought into it, because Satyaji, if I could come to you, therefore, with an establishment of the fact, not an acknowledgement for sure, that technology is always there, it's always been there, it's always going to be. What, in your view, given your vast experience in the manufacturing sector specifically, is your guidance to a new generation of IT leaders and practitioners and CIOs on how to approach their roles within their organizations in the manufacturing sector specifically?
I,
What's the mantra
so, Arjun, I don't think that mantra would be any different
for any other
if
sector?
it wasn't a manufacturing organization, right? So, the biggest thing, and I'm sure Atul will agree, is understand your business, right? And it is extremely important that you need to understand your business and then go and talk to business owners about the opportunities, not problems, but opportunities which will take that business to the next level. Once you start talking about opportunities to that business stakeholders, it will be a different conversation because then they'll start seeing how it's going, that solution is going to benefit, right? To benefit them, and you'll automatically get their buy-in. You'll automatically get the funds for it. You'll automatically get the right to fail. You'll automatically get the seat on the table because people will understand that you're now helping drive the business. That's it. Technology was there, is there, will be there, will change. That is, the people don't really care about it, right? Do you? So today, even if you, when you go into a room and you feeling hot, you want to turn the fan on, you press the switch and the electricity comes, fan goes.
And
You really care
what's
how
running?
all of that happens? You don't. You didn't yesterday, you don't today, and you won't tomorrow. Right? That's a user for. So they don't even they understand that if you touch it, open the plate, you will get electrocuted, or there's chances of you getting electrocuted, all that kind of stuff. Right? They understand that without the electricity, it won't work. So electricity is the key. So today they understand they cannot achieve success without technology.
Of
Do
course.
they really want to understand technology? I don't think so. You always will have those few
Of
that
course,
will
that too.
look, yeah, right. Do they so that's why there's conversations about when we talk about digitization about CX and user experience and all that kind of stuff, in how you can make it more relevant, more simpler for them to use, and so on and so forth. So going back to the point, we need we don't need to tell them how important it is for us to make sure that electricity is happening. We need to make sure that they understand that they have to flip that switch to make the fan work, right?
No, so
And
true.
provide them that information to make sure they also understand, and they understand the benefit of turning the fan on, because all of a sudden they will start feeling nicer than they were until the fan was not on, right? So very crude example, but
No,
that's
I,
the
but
simplest
it makes
report.
absolute sense.
So nobody cares about electricity. They care about you providing them the fan that they can turn on to make their life easier. That's all there is to it. So we need to now go and talk to them is about an opportunity where we can then help them drive business forward. That's all there is.
Which brings me, therefore, and I do have a view on the clock. We've got 5, 6 minutes on the clock, which brings me to a fascinating and I personally feel an important question. Atulji, I'll come to you, and then Sachinji, I'll come to you after this. Is it now because CIOs and IT leaders and IT practitioners understand business so much better, far more in an engaged manner? Does that put, therefore, a CIO's ability to converge understanding of business and technology in a natural progression towards business leadership and the CEO's role? If it were to be aspirational at all, I don't know, this is.
I think I'm sure my CEO is not hearing this. You met him, and you met him, Arjun, the other day.
Yes, I did meet him, sir.
And, he's such a great gentleman.
Oh, it's fine, very nice.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I'll tell you what, without any inhibitions, I must admit, and I would, but I also want to highlight that no, it's not for all CIOs. Okay? It's not something that no, which is like almost all CIOs have evolved from being the greatest network administrators and no, and from being a no tech champions, they have progressed into a business leader overnight, and no amount of COVID will ever do that.
Very true.
It would never happen. Okay, that's something that is extremely wishful for most CIOs. But I know of people who have worked in such profiles and companies who have given opportunities to such CIOs to have matured from their roles, from taking that backstage work to engaging with the business leaders. Having said that, no, I just also want to clearly highlight that no, one is from a capability standpoint, no, we often think that no, if we start discussing digital, we become digital. It's not. It's also about developing capabilities within as well. It's not just about no, and no amount of Google Gyan can actually no, give that confidence to your business leaders that no, yes, you have matured into a digital leader, so to say. It's a different skill set altogether. So one has to spend time on transforming oneself first before talking about digital transformation or transformation from that angle. Last but not the least, I also want to highlight that no, one is the capability building of your own self, your team first, and then you will be able to exude that degree of confidence that yes, whatever you are talking is doable. It's not just about a futuristic thought that no, this is what we can do. This is also because some X company is doing, some Netflix is doing this real time. Why
There's
can't
got to
we
be
also?
realism in it.
There has to be, and for that to happen, you have to conduct yourself, and your team needs to conduct. If they still are busy fighting fires, and because no, if I give you a brief that no, in the last several years of evolution of the role of CIO, every 3 4 years there has been some or the other hype or some technology which seems to have to have the capability to solve everything and anything under the sun. So you had the BI tools which came 10 12 years back, which said no, if you do this, do this analytics, then you are top on top of it. Your decision support, everything happens like this. Nothing happens. Okay, and then some 20 25 years back somebody came up with this theme of ERP. All the ERP stuff which is happening today in today's time, it's all retrospective entries, good for nothing. They are just plain transactional entries which are done post facto, not adding any incremental value, so to say. In today's time and today, in those years, yes, that was
Yeah, of
important.
course.
You have to build, so it's, but in today's time they have become redundant, and it's about time that no technologies like blockchain and such technologies would take shape and become center stage. So I think things are evolving, but it's not that no, we can paint that no, all CIOs are great or all CIOs are bad.
No,
We
but
are
that's
all
true
in
for
our,
any form of
yeah.
any kind of leader, isn't it? Because I do have a view on the clock. Sachinji, in conclusion and in brief, is the CIO a natural successor to the CEO's role? Perhaps because of a better understanding of technology as well as a commensurate understanding as required of business.
Okay, so let's break it down into two, right? We came from a world where sales leaders were successors. Then we came to a world where CFOs were successors because they understood it a little bit better.
The numbers.
And now, if you look at a technology-driven organization, right? And I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. So if you look at an organization like KTM or a very technology product driven company, then it's a slam dunk that is CIO because they're essentially driving the organization because organization is based on that product, which is a technology product. Right? Now, if we look at a brick and mortar business or a business that does not have a technology or a consumer goods industry or so on and so forth, where technology is part of the product and R&D or looks at it. In those industries, a CIO becomes a potential CEO candidate if they understand the business. Now, given the CIO's role, and if they are a business enabler CIO, and I want to be very categoric about it, right? Not an old school CIO, but somebody who's thinking about the business, how to drive business. When you are thinking about how to drive business and working with various functional heads in the organization, you have, and you're looking at digitization or digital transformation, you would get a chance to work with all of the functional heads across the value chain as to understand what their challenges are and to understand what they do and how why those opportunities exist. And if you then want to solve the opportunity, you have to understand the problems and underlying scenarios. Now, if you do that, you naturally then become have an understanding of the entire functions across, right?
So true.
And if you do, then it makes sense for you to then become the possible CEO or one of the possible CEO candidates because of an understanding. Obviously, you want a CEO as somebody who understands whether through experience or whether through otherwise, right? So that's why I think that becomes an easier next step. So the world where we used to see, and I came out of that world where we used to say a CIO means your career is over, right? Those days are little uh, behind. There are now opportunities, and there's been few CIOs who've been torchbearers in showing that path to others, where they have grown and gone. But but one thing I'll say I'm realizing now, right? And I've had this realization over last 1 year that a lot of startups or organizations that are small organizations are reaching out and are depending on CIOs to help guide them,
Yes.
right? Because they understand that a person comes with that breadth of experience that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
So that's where that change is. Now,
So true.
can every CIO become a CEO? Absolutely not.
That's the
Can
law of averages,
not a law of average. Can every CIO that could be CEO will become a CEO? No.
Perhaps not.
But is that a path that is talked about today, or is a possibility? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't the case 2 to 3 years ago, right?
I couldn't agree
That is
more
how-
with both of you, gentlemen. Couldn't agree with you more. And I'm personally very grateful for a fascinating 35 minutes now that we've spent. Thank you so much. But unfortunately, that's all we have time in this segment for. But we will look forward to having you back here. Yes, sir.
So I just want to highlight that one aspect which would be of interest for the listeners and participants later also is that today the whole concept of mobility, we've been using it as a tool for entertainment and communication collaboration. I think from a manufacturing standpoint, it's going to become almost like a factory in your pocket. Yeah. So you carry your factory in your pocket. So that's the theme which we'll have to evangelize, envision, and that's where we.
No, I couldn't. That's critical, I'm sure. But thank you, gentlemen. That's all we have time for. Sachinji, Atulji, lovely as always. It's a delight to have you in our lives. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. That's all from us in this segment, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second.
Thank you very much, Atul, Sachin, and Arjun for sharing those gems of insight on industry resurgence and its adapting to emerging technologies with the promise of a long-term value. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, is a fireside chat on building manufacturing resilience, securing the intelligent enterprises of tomorrow. Let's welcome Mr. Saurabh Tiwari, Director and Chief Technology Officer for Dell Technologies, who's in a conversation with Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Knowledge Officer, Strategy. Over to the both of you.
Hello and welcome back. I'm sure as you heard the last discussion or the panel discussion with two of our eminent industry speakers, much of the use of technology within the manufacturing sector by itself stands greatly established. Because what's equally important, perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, is to understand that with the enormous impact of a global revival, and as it becomes clearer, new potential has certainly emerged around the confluence of human capital and technology. The use of technology in unprecedented form today, as we see it, has shown us that attempts at industrial resilience, both in the short term as well as the long term, have roots firmly embedded in the enthusiastic use of technology. The renewed recognition and acknowledgement of that technology, both seen and unseen, are pivotal to industry's resurgence, reboot, and relaunch, have never been more articulated than they are today. And to talk to me about all of this, please put your hands together to welcome Saurabh Tiwari. Saurabh, welcome. Delighted to have you here with us, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me there.
Saurabh, we've got an interesting 20 minutes ahead. I'm directly going to launch into it, and I'm attempting to make the most of what we have, which is, as a practitioner, with the wide spectrum of visibility you have into industry, at least over the last 18 to 24 months, a couple of years that have been fairly traumatic at various levels. How have you seen, as you see today, the evolution of technology running parallel to the evolution of adoption?
Arjun, that's a great question, and one which is very, very relevant to the times that we live in at this point in time, which themselves are rapidly evolving. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. So, see, what we've seen so far is that technology is becoming increasingly more pervasive. Okay, principally because it is the enabler to everything and everyone.
Indeed.
Okay, uh, when the pandemic started, we started to see us as workforce starting to work remotely. We started to see our kids, studying remotely, giving exams remotely. Okay, which was never ever heard of. Okay, we as lockdowns started to intensify, we started seeing all of us relying more and more on services and products which were fulfilled by IT infrastructure. Okay, home deliveries, people were falling sick and they were ordering stuff. Um, because of lockdowns, the government had allowed e-commerce and food delivery and medicine delivery to run despite very, very stringent lockdowns being in place. So they basically form the lifeblood of our very existence, right? I mean, uh, I remember that there was a time when we used to drive out to a supermarket to get groceries and stuff. Now, okay, after the lockdown, a lot of people started to say, why do we need to even spend money on fuel? Why don't we just order things online? And that so things have started to change, and organizations are also aligning themselves to that new reality, right? Look, at that same period, manufacturers were looking towards automation more and more because the same factors that were impacting us as individuals were impacting manufacturing plants as well, because they didn't have workers who could come and work, right? Right. So the more one looks to automate now, okay, the greater is the need to connect everything in the chain, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And connecting things in the chain is not enough. You need to analyze the data that those connected devices are generating and derive business critical insights, allowing real time actionable outcomes, right?
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Saurabh, but with your permission, if I could just come in, I think what you articulated is very fascinating because fundamentally what you're talking about is creating that digital thread, which is unleashing a seamless flow of data across the value chain that will pretty much link everything to everybody. In that sense, Saurabh, if I may be allowed to ask you, from the perspective of Dell Technologies, uh, how are you approaching industry today in a differential manner as compared to perhaps 2.5 years back, given that adoption and maturity and awareness of technology has significantly been upped? So, in that sense, does Dell Technology approach towards consultative selling, how has that changed and what do we expect to see in the future?
Okay. So look, organizations essentially want three or four things, or maybe even five. So they want efficiency,
Of course.
they want quality, they want predictability,
Absolutely.
reliability, uh, and these days, something which is becoming extremely important because of certain hostilities that we've once started to witness is security.
Of course.
Now, on top of it all, they also want the flexibility to correlate data from seemingly discrete processes which were in the past not correlated to to that extent, right? So they want processes like manufacturing, logistics, supply chain, and sales to correlate information, okay, that each of these verticals are generating, okay, and this correlation will allow them to better align their strategy with current and forecasted market requirements, right, and market conditions. Essentially, organizations are fast coming to a realization, okay, that the success, that their success requires the judicious use of technology as an orchestrator, working in tandem with human intelligence. And for that, we've also changed how we deal with certain problems. So we believe not in a product selling approach,
Yes.
but a consultative approach. So we generally like to hear the problems that customers have, okay, and uh, we encourage customers to help us understand what their business outcomes, what their desired business outcomes are, okay, where do they want to see themselves in the next couple of years, and then we bring in the global expertise of the Dell machinery, okay, so to speak, okay, to apply the experience in that one specific vertical to their set of problems, okay. So what we started to see is that organizations are increasingly coming to a realization that analysis and the ability to utilize insights that their business is generating and the things that are connected to their business is generating are key to accelerate repeatable value outcomes, okay.
Absolutely.
And this requires that data, wherever it is being generated, it gets processed as close to the source as possible, okay. So in today's incredibly fast evolving connected world, nothing is unimportant, okay. Because we've seen that ignoring a seemingly innocuous piece of information, okay, can cause problems with catastrophic results, okay. But at the same time, uh, it becomes very, very challenging to analyze everything quickly, okay. And this is, somewhere where the multi-access edge computing concept also comes into
Absolutely.
play.
Absolutely. So it's very interesting as we're chugging along because sort of it's often been said and obviously observed that the manufacturing sector by itself is one of the main thrust engines for the acceleration of the Indian economy by itself. In that sense, Saurabh, to take your articulation forward, how at Dell Technologies have you reinvented the approach towards the manufacturing segment from a technology innovation point of view to play the role of partners in progress with much more accentuated effort?
That's also another great question. See, look, not too far ago, I mean, not too long ago, uh, the industry itself, I mean, everyone, okay, not just manufacturing, but everyone in the Indian industry had a very simple approach. We used to throw more and more hands to solve a problem. Okay,
Absolutely. Couldn't agree
okay.
more.
It was an easy fix, right? Because labor was cheap and it was readily available. But that has started to change. Okay, a the availability of labor has started to the availability of skilled labor has started to become a bit of a problem. Okay, I'm not going to say it's declining, but because the demand is increasing, right? Because of multiple projects that the government themselves is sponsoring, like Make in India, right? The demand sometimes outstrips the supply in certain locations. That's number one. Number two is the quality. So that's changing, very, very quickly. So the paucity of skilled labor, as well as another requirement, which is to scale up rapidly and match the quality of competing products, both domestically as well as products which are coming in from outside markets, okay, has made organizations realize that a modular production approach relying on the basic tenets of automation and technology is the only way that will enable them achieve value outcomes consistently. So that consistency is where we come in with a lot of innovations that we have. So for example, we're we've been one of the most innovative tech companies, spending almost $20 billion on R&D over the last 5 to 6 years. Okay. That's a significant portion of what we earn. Okay. That innovation actually does not stop at mainstream products. Look, we're great at making fantastic laptops, okay, desktops, servers, storage, okay, hyperconverged infrastructure. We are the leaders from a data protection point of view. In fact, all of these verticals, okay, we are one of the world's leading companies. Okay, we in many instances actually collaborate with institutions who actually write the standards to make things more and more secure, because performance is one thing, you also need to pay close attention to quality. So innovation in that sense does not stop at mainstream data center products, but also gets carried over to edge products. Okay. So, for example, we just spoke about the MEC, right? The multi-edge access computing concept. Okay. That relies on discrete units of processing customized to handle the type and volume of data which is being generated closest to the source that is generating it, right? This requires components in the MEC to be able to withstand harsh environments, because you obviously can't replicate a data center at thousands and thousands of locations, right? So this requires equipment which has little to no protection from the environment. And for that, you require things which comply to, let's say, mil spec, which can be mil spec standards, which can withstand temperatures up to, let's say, 55, 60 degrees centigrade. Okay, without compromising in performance. They can withstand blowing dust. They're IP rated to for splash protection. In some cases, things need to be hermetically sealed. In some cases, you require infrastructure which can run in an explosive environment. Let's say, for example, you've got a mine which is full of carbon monoxide and some other noxious gases. Okay, they're inflammable, right? You turn on a machine, the very act of pushing a switch to an on position could result in a spark. Okay, and that could be disastrous, right? So things like that. Okay, then the ability to run things in corrosive gaseous environments.
Indeed.
So all of those are a lesser known aspect of Dell Technologies that we specialize in. So we are the only mainstream manufacturer which not only makes such products, okay, things that you can use in a desert, things that you can use in a production line next to a blast furnace, okay, but also equipment which can be used pretty much in any environment.
Oh, that's fantastic, really, because I do have a view on the clock. And it is, I think, imperative on behalf of this wonderful audience that's tuning in with us today to hear your views equally from a Dell Technologies perspective. Is that one of the acknowledgements really is that technology is certainly the savior, it is the enabler. And perhaps it's more than just being an enabler. But there's also that concept that organizations only have finite budgets. And therefore, the whole concept of the need or the urgency to adopt and embrace technology, yet be fiscally prudent. You've got a great narrative there from Dell Technologies' perspective on Apex. Do you want to throw some light on that?
Oh, absolutely. See, we've been partnering with our customers, to assist them in their tech adoption journey. Sometimes that requires redesigning and transforming their infrastructure, if needed, even at a foundational level, right? Look, we spoke about connecting pretty much everything, and not everyone is equipped to do so. And those who are equipped to do so, perhaps, are not equipped to process it, or perhaps are equipped to process it, but are not able to process it quickly enough. Okay, so sometimes that can become an incredibly challenging activity from both a capex as well as opex point of view. So cost as well as effort. Sometimes you might not even have the expertise. Okay, So to address such concerns, we've come up with one of the most innovative offerings that we've had, which is Apex, which attempts to deliver services for a variety of workloads. So it doesn't matter whether it is banking or insurance or a typical telco or manufacturing or pretty much any vertical. Okay, um, that allows you to basically customize the infrastructure to workload requirements, allows customers to focus on their priorities, which is extremely important, right? I mean, we are great at manufacturing, state-of-the-art IT infrastructure, and we're great at managing it as well, right? So while customers consume the infrastructure predictably in a service that is consistent and transparent, this approach also tends to simplify, the infrastructure and its management. Okay, and the adoption of global best practices, and also, from a scalability point of view, which becomes a bit of a challenge as well. Okay, because sometimes when you're doing something, you don't know the outcome. Okay, you don't know how much more infrastructure you're going to be needing. Okay, so all of that becomes very, very predictable. And it also adds a significantly capable data protection and cyber resilience service, which is often overlooked and has started, again, as I mentioned before, in these challenging times. It's becoming very, very critical in today's world.
No, I couldn't agree more at all. And it's actually fantastic because as more and more CIOs look to accelerate the journeys towards true transformation, many of these innovative methods are certainly going to be, I think, more than just imperative. I think they're going to be critical to survival and sheer existence. But like I said, I do have a view on the clock. I've got about a minute odd left, to understand the man behind the technology. Sort of the last 2 years have been, well, traumatic and fairly interesting in many, many ways, both personal as well as professional. Uh, if there are a couple of learnings that have happened along the way, uh, could be personal, it could be professional, it could be with a view to industry, learnings that are going to stick with you for a long, long time to come. What would those be that you could share with our audience today?
I think one of the biggest learnings that I have been able to come to as an individual is um, the fact that we always need to have a backup plan.
No, that is so true.
So
I think nothing puts it better than that.
So that's one really big realization. Okay, no matter what you're doing, both professionally or personally, one needs to have a plan B in action. Okay, and at the same point in time, in addition to the plan B, you should always be prepared for the unexpected. That's one thing that this new reality has taught me as an individual.
No, I couldn't agree more. But Saurabh, it has been fascinating speaking with you. Thank you for taking out time and sharing multiple nuances and facets of fascinating information and insights into the whole area or domain of how Dell Technologies is perhaps so ably equipped to help industry forge a more resolute and exciting journey ahead. But that's pretty much what we have time for. Thank you so very much, Saurabh.
Thank you so much for having me, Arjun.
Thank you very much. And for the audience, that was I in conversation with Saurabh Tiwari from Dell Technologies. Stay tuned and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Saurabh and Arjun, for that insightful and amazing discussion. Thank you for sharing how Dell Technologies can be a partner of choice and help us navigate through the current environment and beyond as we manufacture in the factories of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's a wrap. I hope you found today's webinar on transforming manufacturing with data, reshaping the future, informative and useful. I'd request you all to please take a few moments and fill in the feedback form. The feedback is invaluable to us. Please do mention any suggestions or recommendations that you have for us, as this will help us enhance the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. I thank you all once again for joining us today on behalf of Dell Technologies, Intel, and Strategy, and look forward to welcoming you at our upcoming conferences. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy the rest of